Welcome back, girls and boys. As promised, here is a video for Module 1, Lesson 5, a follow-up video for the homework. So our objective today is I can name decimal fractions in expanded, unit, and word form by applying place value reasoning. So we're just going to be doing all three of those forms by applying what we already know about place value. So let's take a look here. Number one has several parts, A through H. It says express as decimal numerals. The first one is done for you. So you see for A, 1A says 5 thousandths. So pay attention to that. We know that it's 5, and it has thousandths. So the 5 is going to be in the thousands place. All right, so we see that the 5 is in the thousands place. B, it says 35 thousandths. So the same thing, we know that we have 35 thousandths. In this case, we can't put our 35 in the thousands place because that's two numbers. We can put our 5 in the thousands place, which means that our 3 would go in our hundreds place. Of course, we would put our placeholders in, 0 in our tenths, and 0 in our ones place. Let's look at C here. It says 9 and 235 thousandths. So now, once we see the and, we know that the decimal is our and. So we have 9 and 235 thousandths. So we know the 5 has to be in the thousands place. So that means that our 5 is going to be here, our 3 is going to be here, and our 2 is going to be there. So we have 9 and, after decimal says and, you say the entire number, 235, and that 5 has to be in the thousands place. All right, we talked about every number having two names, the first and the last name. The first name is the digit, and the last name is the place value unit. So in this case, it was 9. We know that was 9 ones because we said 9 and. Once we say and, represents the decimal. 235 what? Thousandths. All right, let's take a look at this next one, D here. D says 805 thousandths. So now we have 800. So we have 8 in the hundreds place. And these are not going to line up as decimals here. My decimal's not going to line up. I'm just writing it out this way because I need a little more space. So we have 805 in the thousands place. So we have 0 hundreds, 0 tenths, 0 ones, and 0 tens. We have 805 thousandths. Now, when we see this decimal, when we see this fraction for E, we know that 8 has to be in the thousands place because the fraction is read as 8 over 1,000 or 8 thousandths. Remember, I talked about this earlier. When we have a fraction, we have our numerator and our denominator. It's also, the fraction symbol looks like this. Somebody said, oh, that's a division symbol. That's also a fraction symbol. It's saying, question mark, what is my numerator and what is my denominator? So here we have 8 divided by 1,000. If you think about a place value chart, and we had 8 on our place value chart, we say 8 divided by 10 would be 8 tenths, divided by 100 would be 8 hundredths, divided by 1,000 would be 8 thousandths, right? So 8 divided by 1,000 is 8 thousandths. This is saying 8 thousandths. So we're going to have 8 in our thousands place. All right. Let's keep going here. And I'll just be consistent with my color here, and let's change that to red. So we have 8 in our thousands place. So now we have 28 thousandths. So I can't put 28 just in my thousands place. So that means my last digit is going to go in my place value that's at the bottom. So my 8 is going to be my thousands place, which means I have 2 in my hundreds place, 0 tenths, and 0 ones. Looking at G. So now we have 7. This is a mixed number. We have a whole number, and then we have parts of a whole. So we have 7 and 528 thousandths. We have 7 wholes and 528 out of 1,000. And of course, our 8 is in the thousandths place. All right. Next, we have 300 and 502 thousandths. That's how we represent those. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next number 2 here. It says express each of the following values in words. So now we're going to be writing words. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Well, we know our number is an 8, and the place value unit of that 8 is the thousandths, right? This 0 would be the ones. There's my decimal. That's my tenths, my hundredths, and then my 8 is in my thousands. So I know this is going to be written as 8 thousandths. THS. That means that you have 8 divided by 1,000 is 8 thousandths. All right. Next, I have a 1 in my tens place, a 5 in my ones place, my decimal, 0 in my tenths place, 6 in my hundreds place, and a 2 in my thousands place. So once again, boys and girls, I don't just want you copying this down, or parents don't just, please don't allow your students to just copy this down. Have them try it on their own and then go back and use this as a tool to check their work. So hopefully you had 1 in the tens place and 5 in the ones place is equal to 15. My decimal says and. If you notice in A, my decimal didn't say and because I didn't have any holes, right? We didn't have anything that was a hole here. So now I have 15 holes or 15 and. Now I say, well, 15 and what? Well, 62. 62 what? What place value is that 2 in? That 2 is in the thousands. THS. All right. Now this one is a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and write it in 2 lines. So let's take a look at this one. Try it on your own. You have 6 in the hundreds place, 0 in the tens place, 7 in the ones place, 4 in the tenths place, 0 in the hundredths place, and 9 in the thousandths place. If you notice, I'm really stressing that THS. All right, so let's go ahead and look. So we know 6 in the hundreds place is going to be simply 600. 600 what? 607, because we have 7 ones. Decimal says, and now we're going to say the whole number after the decimal, my whole number. Now remember, this is part of a whole, but we're going to say it like it's a whole. So 409. So we will write that out. 400. I'll write the 9. And then what place value is that 9 in? Hopefully you said thousandths. THS. All right, moving right along. Remember, pause the video at any time and use it to best benefit you, to help you better understand these skills. So looking at number 3, it says write the number on the place value chart, then write it in expanded form using fractions or decimals. You don't have to do both for number 3 to express the decimal place value units. All right, the first one is done for us. So we had to write a place value chart. And then we're going to pick either one, either fractions or decimals. If you notice, there's my equivalent fraction to decimal. So 1/10 is equal to 1/10. 1/100th is equal to 1/100th. I'll write thousandths up here. 1,000th is equal to 1 in the thousandths place. All right, so there's our equivalent fractions of decimal. You have to understand that. And remember, when I say 1,000th, you can hear me say the two words. 1, that's my numerator, thousandth. Now, I'm not putting thousandth at the bottom because this is saying 1 out of 1,000, which equals 1,000. Same thing, 1/10. I can hear my numerator, 1, and my denominator, 10. 100th, same thing, 1 over 100. All right, let's take a look at B here. So I'm going to try to draw a quick place value chart. I might as well do C also while I have my line tool out. It's not going to be pretty, guys. Don't judge me on my place value chart. Hopefully you're not judging me at all. All right, let's see here. So there's my, I'm just going to try to duplicate what they have up top. My 1s and my 10s. I don't like to have a place value slot for my decimal because the decimal doesn't have its own place value slot. But since they did it on this paper, we'll do it here. Usually I'll just put it on the line. But let's go ahead and place our decimal in. We know that if our decimal's here, then this is my ones place, this is my tenths place, and so forth, based off of just like it is up top. So looking at B, I have 0 ones, 3 tenths, 6 hundredths, and 2 thousandths. My decimals here, so I know that this is my ones place, this is going to be my tenths place, my hundredths place, and my thousandths place. Now, let's go ahead and do the second part. I'll do the first one as a fraction and the second one as a decimal. All right, so let's take a look here. When I expand the form, think of a rubber band. When you expand the rubber band, it stretches out, right? So we're going to stretch this number out and multiply by whatever place value the digit is in. So we have a 3 here. So I'm going to say this is equal to, we're going to write the number out again, just like they did. So I say that's equal to 3, but 3 what? I don't know. 3 what? Well, I can look here and say, well, it's 3 in my tenths place. So that's going to be 3 times, we'll put it like this, 1/10. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it the way that we did it in class, just for consistency. I like to have my open parentheses for the whole operation. Some people may say, well, order operations say you have to show that that's division. And this is not for my fifth graders. This is for anybody who is above fifth grade. You'll be able to notice that either way, if I multiply my 3 times my 1 and then divide by 10, I'm going to get the same thing. So I like to show it this way so that I can show my multiplication within my parentheses. All right, so there's my 3/10. So now I have 6 copies of, multiplication sign says of, what? Well, the 6 is in the what? That's in the hundreds place. So I have 6 copies of 100. That would be 100 6 times is 600. Then we're going to add that and say, well, I have 2 copies of what? 1,000ths. 1 copy would be 1,000. 2 copies would be 2,000ths. All right. Now let's look at this C. C is 4 in the tens place, 9 in the ones place. I know my ones place is right next to my decimal. So I'm going to put my 9 there. My 4 is adjacent to my 9, vocabulary word, to the left. So I'm going to put my 4 there, right? Most of us can just go 4, 9, you know, based off of your decimal. Then I'm going to just fill in the rest of the numbers. They're all adjacent, no zeros, 5 tenths, 6 hundredths, and 4 thousandths. Once again, 4 tens, 9 ones, decimal says and, 5 tenths, 6 hundredths, and 4 thousandths. Now I'm going to show you the same thing we did here, but in decimal form. So we have our number again. I'm just going to rewrite it, 49 and 564 what thousandths. All right. So now I'm going to put my 4 times 10 plus 9 copies of 1. 9 times 1 plus, room here, 5 copies of, what place value is that in? 1/10. 6 copies of 100th, and 4 copies of 1,000. Everybody see how we did that? All we did was changed our 1,000th here to 1,000th there, just like we said here. Our 100th here is 100th, 1 in the hundreds place, because we're multiplying it. We have 6 copies of that to get our 600s. A lot of people are getting confused and putting a 600s there. No, you're multiplying 6 copies of 100. All right, and same thing with our 5 copies of 1/10 is going to give us our 5/10, just like 1/10 is equal to 1/10. All right, moving right along. Last ones we're going to wrap up here. Hopefully this won't be too long of a video and you'll be able to get anything that you didn't get already or just to confirm what you already got. So it says write a decimal for each of the following. Use a place value chart to help if necessary. You don't have to write a place value chart, but you can if you want to. I'll do a place value chart for the first one, just a quick one. Thousands, hundreds, tens. I'm not going to put my decimal place unit. We'll just put it like that. So because my decimal's right here, you know that this is my ones and that's my tenths, right? So it says 3 times 10. Well, 3 times 10, remember 3 on a place value chart will look like this. And when I multiply it by 10, it will move over one place to the left, and that would be 3 tens. 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 1/10 is the same thing as 2 times, divided by 1/10, right? Divided by 10, which would be 2 tenths. All right. Next, we have our 7 times 100, 7 in the hundreds place, and 6 times 1,000, 6 in the thousands place. So this answer is going to be 35 and 276 thousandths. All right, let's do the same thing here. 9 in what place value unit? Hundreds place. No TH, hundreds. No, and if you notice here, I don't have anything. I do have something in my 10. So now we say 9 in the hundreds place. 2 times 10, that's 2 tens. Then I have 3 times 1/10. I don't have anything in my ones place. So I say, well, now 3 times 1/10 is 3 tenths. And then once again, I don't have anything in my hundreds place because we go from tenths to thousandths. So that means I need a placeholder in my hundreds place. And that's going to be my 0. And then I say 7 times 1,000 is equal to 7,000. 7 times 1,000 is equal to 7,000. Same thing for C. That was B. C I'll do right here. 5 times 1,000. 5 times 1,000 is 5,000. 4 times 100 is 400. Watch this. 8 times 1. So we were at 100. So now I say, well, we didn't do anything times 10. 8 times 1 is 8. So if I didn't do anything to 10, what do I have to put here as a placeholder? Hopefully you said 0. So now I'm finished with my wholes. If you notice, these have from here over to the right, these all have fractions. So I know that my wholes are finished. Now I'm working with my parts of a whole. Let's take a look at that. Excuse me. So now we have 6 times 1/100th. So I have nothing in my tenths place. There's nothing. I don't have anything times 1/10, but I have 6 times 100th. That's going to be 6 in the hundreds place. You notice my tenths place is empty, so I'm going to place my placeholder there, 0, to say that my tenths place has no value. And then I have 5 times 1,000 is 5 in the thousandths place. All right. Last one. We're talking about a piece of chalk. You're talking about practice. All right. So we said at the beginning of the lesson, a piece of chalk is 4 and 875 inches long. At the end of the lesson, it is 3 and 125 thousandth of an inch long. Let me reread that. At the beginning of the lesson, a piece of chalk is 4 and 875 thousandths of an inch long. At the end of the lesson, it is 3 and 125 thousandths of an inch long. Write the two amounts in expanded form using fractions. So we have to use this fraction way here. We're not using a decimal like B. We got to use the fractions. Okay. So they're telling us we have to use expanded form and fractions. So at the beginning of the lesson, it was 4 and 875 thousandths. Let's go ahead and write that in expanded form. I know this 4. 4 what? 4 times 1 is 8. 8 what? 8 times 1/10. It's in the tenths. So 8 times 1/10 is going to be 8/10. Now we have 7. 7 times what? 7 is in the hundreds place. 1 over 100 is equal to 1/100th. So 7 copies of 100 is going to be 7/100th. And last but not least, 5 times 1 over 1,000. All right. At the end of the lesson, we had 3 and 125 thousandths of an inch. And that's going to be equal to 3 times 1 for my 3 ones. I may not put that dot in there, it might confuse somebody, think it's a decimal. So we have 3 ones times 1, 3 times 1 plus, remember we're adding these together, 3 times 1 plus 1, what? What place value is that 1 in? That 1 is in the tenths place, so times 1/10 plus 2 is in my hundredths place, so times 2/100ths plus, again, 5 thousandths. All right, boys and girls, there you have it. Hopefully you're using this in the right way. Even if you're just watching it, hopefully you picked up something. Comment below, let me know if you still have questions or if you still don't understand it. If you do understand it, it really helps me if you just put, Mr. Kennedy, I got it now, or I already understood it, or I learned something but from watching this video, just to let me know. Kind of encourages me to keep going. Thank you to all of my supporters. Really do appreciate all your work and the comments that you do leave. Hopefully this helps you. Have a good day and keep learning.